Alright, so this video is about the beans. This is a warning video. You need to watch it. It's a tip video. I told you before in the email that if you my hair looks so stupid because it's all wet uh, and retarded. Oh, man, whatever. I don't have time to comb my hair or anything like that. All right, drop shedding. Anyway, so I was telling you a warning about cooking at high temperatures. I told you never to cook on the highest temperatures. Um, it's easier to be able to tell when you're cooking on the highest temperatures when you have a stove, because when you have a stove, you have more control over your temperature because you can have a flame, and you know it's high flame because the flame is at its highest, and you know it's medium flame when the flame is not too big or too small, and you know when the flame is cooking on slow heat because it's a small flame, so you it's very easy to picture what those temperatures would be. Now, when you have an electric stove, you also have a lot of control because you have a dial, but the dial has a lot of very precise temperatures. Like the dial has a lot of little numbers, so you know when you're cooking on high, you know when you're cooking on medium, and you know when you're cooking on low. Very easy to tell when you have a stove. When you have an electric pot like I do, that doesn't have a lot of options, it has like two temperatures, super high or like super low. So it's all very difficult. But the point is, even if you had a pot, I'm talking about temperatures, all right? You never cook on the highest temperatures when you're cooking your beans. You never do that. You never do that. You never do that. Always cook. The highest temperature you use when cooking beans would be a medium temperature, because this is what happens, and I'm going to show you. Even at the highest temperature, the beans take over an hour to cook. Okay, they take over 1 hour. They take like somewhere between 1 hour and a half and 2 hours to cook at the highest temperature. And I'm telling you, if you are using the highest temperature that the highest temperature that the stove can reach, if you were using that temperature, the highest one, it would still take somewhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours. Now, this pot that I have here with my beans and my water, it's been cooking for like somewhere around 10 minutes, probably a little bit longer, something like 12 minutes. So from the last video I made where I started everything, and this video right now, it's been 12 minutes. And I told you I'm not going to cook on the highest. I'm going to cook on one of the higher temperatures, but not the highest. It's going to be somewhere between medium and high. I told you that. And this is the problem, and I made this video to warn you of what happens. The entire time, the entire 12 minutes, this has been happening to the pot. I hope I can catch it on the camera. I don't know if you can see the steam that is steaming. It's from over here. But the entire time, it's been steaming like crazy. Look at all that steam. Look at all this is water that's coming out of the pot. The pot is shut, but even though it's shut, the steam has to escape, and it escapes where it can, and it's escaping. And all this is water that's escaping my pot. It's a lot of water. All this is water, and it's been doing it for 12 minutes. So even if none of this water was escaping, if all of it stayed in the pot, and I had my highest temperature, the highest one, the very highest, it would still take over between 1.5 hours and 2 hours to cook the beans. That's how long they take to open up and get big and all that. So, that's saying even if it wasn't steaming at all, even if the water was not escaping my pot. But you see, it's only been 12 minutes, and for 12 minutes this has been happening, all this steam over here. So, do you think the water is going to... How much water do you think I'm going to have by the time 1 hour passes? If it's continuously steaming this much water. By the time 1 hour goes by, I'm not going to have a lot of water. Actually, I think a lot of my beans might be already uncovered. Like, there's not going to be any water covering them, and it's going to start burning the beans that are at the bottom because there's not enough water. And it's going to be a big mess. Like, the beans at the top are not going to be covered by water. They're not going to be cooking. They're just going to be heating up and getting nasty. By the dry heat, they're going to be getting drier. because there's no more water covering them anymore. So by the time 1 hour happens, that's what's going to happen to my beans. Now imagine after the amount that it actually takes to cook them, which is between 1 hour and a half and 2 hours. How much water am I going to have left? The answer is I'm not going to have. With this much water escaping my pot, look at this much water. With this much water escaping my pot during an entire hour, my beans are not going to be covered in 1 hour. They're not going to be covered anymore in 1 hour. Like, I'm going to have to add more water without a doubt, because this is too much water that's escaping my pot. Even though it's shut, this is too much water that's escaping my pot, and in 1 hour, my beans at the top are going to be uncovered and getting nasty by the heat. So there's two options. I either add more water, or I lower my temperature. And honestly, the best option in that case is to lower your temperature. You can add more water when you want to save the beans, like you didn't notice, you came, you saw, and you were like, oh wow, my beans, sorry, that's stupid, my beans. If you were like surprised, that's a way to save your beans. But that water that you added is going to be cold, and it's going to have to get hot again. It's going to have to reach a hot temperature to be able to cook your beans, because cold water is not going to cook your beans. So it's going to delay the whole process. You're going to save your beans that you have in the pot if you add water, but you're going to delay the process. It's going to take longer to cook them, longer than necessary. So when I made the last video, I told you I was going to try to cook them on one of the higher temperatures, which was somewhere between medium and high. I told you I was going to do that because I really want to go, and I don't want to be here for a long time. I got to go right now. And I told you, well, if it runs out of water, I'm going to add water, I guess. But honestly, after looking at it, that's too much water escaping the pot. That's just too much water. I cannot afford to cook the beans at this temperature, because in the end it's going to take longer, because I'm gonna be constantly adding water, because my beans are not covered, and I'm going to have to be constantly adding water, which is going to cool everything inside the pot again, and it's going to take longer to cook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower it. I had it at 350. I'm going to lower it to somewhere between, I think at the very beginning of 300. That's what I'm going to leave it, which is a medium temperature. It's not a low temperature. This wouldn't be 300. It's not low flame. It's medium flame. But like I said, there's going to be a huge difference in how much water is escaping my pot after I turn it down to 300. And there's not going to be, the water is still going to boil inside like it is, but there's not going to be water escaping like it was. There's not going to be a lot of steam escaping, which means I'm going to have water there to cook my beans. I'm not going to have to add more water, and the whole process is going to be more efficient, So this is why, I know this video took too long, but what I'm saying is this is why you never cook on high temperatures. I had to make this video to show you why you never cook on high temperatures, and you never leave your stove on high temperatures. Never, ever. Because you could take a nap and you can fall asleep, you can have an accident and fall asleep longer than you intended. And if you had it in low temperature, the flame, you left the stove on low temperature, chances are you're pretty safe. There's not going to be any messes. There's not going to be any smoke in the house, nothing like that. All right. But if you had it on the highest temperatures, and you have an accident where you fell asleep because on accident or something, it's going to be a whole mess. The house is going to be full of smoke. The walls are going to be covered in smoke forever. It's just going to be a big mess. You never do that, okay? You never do that. You never leave the stove on the highest temperatures. Never. Never, ever, ever. So, anyway, that's not the point. The point is, you also don't cook beans on the highest temperatures. You do not cook beans on the highest temperatures, because too much water escapes the pot. It makes too much steam, and because it takes somewhere around 2 hours to cook the beans anyway, you're not going to have enough water, but in like 40 minutes, your beans are already going to be uncovered, and you're going to have to do that constantly. It's always going to be steaming too much water. Too much. A little bit is fine, okay? Whatever. You're losing water, but it's a little bit. But when you're losing that much water, that's too much. You know, it's too much of a hassle. You're making it longer than it. Your beans are going to take longer than 2 hours to cook with you losing that much water. So this is why you never, ever, ever cook on the highest temperatures. Your beans. You never do that. So pick a temperature that is medium, where the water is still boiling. You can still see it bubble, but it's not creating that much steam as you saw over there. Okay, that's what you want to do. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue washing my hair. Bye.